Okay, guys, so one of the things I want to explain next is metric conversions. So if you want to write this down, that would be recommended. So this is metric conversions. And in metric conversions, there's two components that you need to know. It is made up of the units and the prefixes. So units describe what you're measuring, and some example units would be meters, and we abbreviate that with an M, liters, abbreviated with an L. And in heat, we have joules, abbreviated with a J. We have calories, abbreviated with a CAL, lowercase. Then there's the prefixes. The prefixes come before the unit. So common prefixes that we see are milli, centi, and kilo. These are some of the three most important units that we will see in our chemistry class. And one of the things that I suggest you do is memorize the conversion factors between the different prefixes. So again, those prefixes come before the units. The prefixes, the letter that we use for those prefixes, for milli, it's lowercase m, which gets confusing with meters, I know. Centi is just a C, and kilo is a K. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is conversion factors. So conversion factors help us go from one unit to a different unit. So the three conversion factors that I recommend that you guys memorize would be, and I'm just going to use the unit meters to start off with, and that meters can be replaced with any of those units above. So, for example, the first conversion factor that I recommend you memorize is 1,000 millimeters is equal to 1 meter. Now, I'm going to box off the unit, right? And that box can be replaced with any of the units above. The second conversion factor is 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. Again, boxing off the units that can be replaced with any of the ones above. And the third commonly used conversion factor is, I'm going to do 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. Again, any of those boxed off areas can be replaced with any of the units above. Next, we had some conversion factors given to us in our book. And so on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see in our book under section 3 of Explore. Down here, we were given several different conversion factors. So I'm just going to remind myself of those conversion factors for when I'm doing the work. So these conversion factors is 1 calorie is equal to 0.001 kilocalories, which is also equal to, so 1 calorie is equal to 4.186 joules, right? Which also means that the 0.001 kilocalories is equal to that 4.186 joules. The next bullet point right here is 1 kilocalorie is equal to 1,000 calories, which is essentially the same thing that I wrote up here. It's just a little bit different way of writing it. And then 1,000 calories is equal to 4,186 joules. Lastly, we have 1 joule equaling 0.239 calories. And then we can also go 1 joule is equal to 0.000239 kilocalories, right? So those are the different units, different conversion factors that we're going to be using today with the problems that I will demonstrate. Next, in chemistry, we will be doing lots of conversions using these conversion factors, and I'm going to abbreviate conversion factors CF. Okay, so we use conversion factors to go from one unit to a different unit. We always make sure that we keep our number and our unit together when we are doing these problems. So in chemistry, we like to use something called a T-chart. So I'm going to go down to the problems that you were given. And so this is the problem that you were given. There was an example problem above, and then you had 4 problems to work on your own. So let's take a look at this first problem. And so this first problem says convert 101 kilocalories into joules, right? So that's the problem that we're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and just write this as KJ1 on my pad for my example. And so this KJ1 tab is again asking me to figure out how many kilojoules are in 101 kilocalories. So I'm going to write my information. 101 kilocalories is equal to, I don't know how many kilojoules, right? So in chemistry, again, we use a T-chart. In a T-chart, we put the given in the beginning. So here's where our given goes with the number and the unit. And then anytime I make, so this is called a T-chart because it's basically a whole bunch of T's right after each other strung along. In between the T's after the given, I'm going to put my conversion factors. So I'm going to put CF here and CF here, right? We are trying to get to kilojoules. We don't know how many kilojoules yet. So the given, I'm going to fill in, was 101 kilocalories. Now, my kilocalories is the unit that's going to be important because I'm going to use that information to then go and look over at my units, at my conversion factors that I have from the book over here, where I put the star, in order to figure out how to go from kilocalories to kilojoules. So I see that there are a couple ways to get from kilocalories to kilojoules. Right here, this one, I see that I can immediately go from kilocalories to joules. So I'm going to use that one to start off with. Now, in any sort of division problem, so I'm going to give you a small little example over here on the right-hand side. If I take 2 divided by 2, that's going to get me 1, right? Well, that's what we want in chemistry, to get whatever is up on the top to also be on the bottom so that it equals 1. So in my conversion factor here, I'm going to put the kilocalories and the number next to it on the bottom. So the 0.000239 kilocalories on the bottom and 1 joule up on top. Again, always remember to include the number and the unit. And then that's going to get us into joules. Now, before I told you that there are important conversion factors to memorize. And this section right here, you're going to want to memorize these 3 conversion factors because it's super important to go from these 3 different conversion factors. So the conversion factor I'm going to use next is this last one. I put a star next to it, where instead of meters, I'm going to switch out the M's with J's. And if I have 1,000 joules, that's going to equal 1 kilojoule. So I have joules on the top. Right here, I put a little dot next to it. So that means I'm going to have joules on the bottom. So I'm going to do 1,000 joules on the bottom is equal to 1 kilojoule. Okay. Next, I'm going to put it into my calculators. And when I put it into my calculators, I should get 422.59. So 422.59. Now, if we look at the screen, that answer is not on here, but rounded it is. So I'm going to submit that answer. Okay, and it tells me that yes, it is correct. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to round it to 423 kilojoules and circle my answer. That's the proper final answer. Okay. Next one I'm going to look at is tab 2, calories 1. So I'm going to make just a little line going across. And name this cal 1. Okay. And make my T-chart again, because that's how I solve all of my problems like this. So draw that out. This time I know that I'm only going to need 1 conversion factor because I already did this. And I have the problem in front of me, which says convert 345 joules into calories. Okay, so my given is 345 joules, and I'm going to look for how I can go from joules to calories. And so I'm looking in my starred conversion factors on the right hand side, and I'm looking to see, all right, where's joules, where's calories? And so I see right here where I'm putting a star next to it right now that I have 1 calorie is equal to 4.186 joules. Now remember, I have joules on the top, so I'm going to go ahead and put joules on the bottom. So the number stays with the unit, so 4.186 joules on the bottom is equal to 1 calorie. And when I put that into my calculators, I get 82.417, which is a little off from this problem, but the closest answer to this one is A. So let's see if I get that correct. And I get 82.5 as being correct. So let's round this to 82.5 calories. All right. Next one, going on to kilojoules 2. So I'm going to name this KJ2, and this one is going to require 2 parts of a conversion factor, because again, I did it ahead of time, so I know. The problem says convert 2,541 calories into kilojoules. So I'm going to go ahead and write my given, which is 2,541 calories. And I'm trying to get over to kilojoules, right? So the first conversion factor that I'm looking for is going from calories to get us closer to joules. So I have over here, calories to joules, right here, that same one that I used the last time. I also have another one down below. It says 1 joule equals 0.239 calories. So let's use that one this time. Okay, so the one that I'm going to use this time is right here that I just starred. And since calories are on the top, I'm going to go ahead and put calories on the bottom, which is 0.239 calories and 1 joule up on the top. Now, I'm trying to get into kilojoules, so I'm going to go back to the original 3 conversion factors that I told you to memorize. And again, I'm going to say that there's 1,000 joules in 1 kilojoule. When I do the math, I got 10.631 kilojoules. So I go over to my answers, and this looks to be the closest one. And let's see if I'm correct. And I am. So this is rounded to 10.63 kilojoules. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last one. I'm running out of space here. So here is my last problem. It is the last tab, which is calories 2. So let's name that. And I'm going to go off to the side this time because I'm running out of room. This one says convert 78.9 kilojoules into calories. So that's the problem. And I know since I did this ahead of time, there are 2 parts to this conversion factor. So I'm going to go ahead and make my 2 conversion parts. And I'm going to put my given on here, which is 78.9 kilojoules. And this time I'm going to look for a conversion factor that gets me close to into joules, right? So the previous problem gave me 1 kilojoule is equal to 1,000 joules. So that's going to get me into joules. Sorry, my line's a little funky here. There. Sorry. The next one is I'm trying to get into calories. So 1 joule is going to be equal to, same conversion as the last time, 0.239 calories. When I put that into my calculator, I get 18,857.1 calories. So the closest one on the screen is 18,900. So let's check that. Submit, and that is the correct answer. So this will be rounded to 18,900 calories. All right, so that's my final answer right down there. Sorry, it's a little small. I ran out of space. Hopefully that answers some of your guys' questions.